The first sensation Dr. Lyra Winters registered was warmth, not the harsh burn of the solar flare that had torn through her survey ship, but a gentle, pulsing heat that seemed to flow through her veins like liquid starlight. Her eyelids fluttered, heavy with artificial sleep, as consciousness slowly returned. "Please," a voice whispered, melodic and otherworldly. "Keep your eyes closed. The neural bridge is still forming." Lyra wanted to look, to understand where she was and who was speaking, but something in that voice commanded trust. She forced her eyes shut, though every scientific instinct screamed to observe, to analyze, to know. "What happened?" she managed to ask, her throat raw. "The survey ship was caught in a Class X solar ejection," the voice replied. "The rescue pod's navigation systems were damaged. You've been adrift for 3 days. We found you at the edge of the Carina Nebula." "We." The word echoed in Lyra's mind as she tried to piece together her last memories. She had been mapping quantum fluctuations in dying stars, searching for patterns that might explain the anomalies appearing in faster-than-light travel. The flare had come without warning, overwhelming the ship's shields. "I'm Dr. Novan," the voice continued. "You're aboard the research vessel Helios Dawn. Your injuries were extensive." There was something unusual about his tone, a resonance that seemed to vibrate through her bones. Lyra felt a cool touch on her forehead, and suddenly her mind was filled with shifting colors, blues and silvers that danced like aurora. "What are you doing to me?" she asked, fighting the urge to open her eyes. "Establishing a healing connection," Novan replied. "My people's gift requires synchronicity. Trust. The patient must surrender to the process." His people. Something clicked in Lyra's memory, stories from the outer colonies about beings of living light, healers who could reconstruct damaged tissue through some form of quantum entanglement. Most dismissed them as myths, but... "You're Lamini," she breathed. The hand on her forehead trembled slightly. "Yes. Though few remember us now. Fewer still know we exist." "But why?" Lyra began, then gasped as a wave of sensation washed through her. It was like being immersed in starlight, every cell in her body humming with energy. "The damage to your neural pathways was severe," Novan explained. "Standard medical procedures would have left you with significant impairment. But through the bridge, I can guide your body's own healing processes." As he spoke, Lyra became aware of another consciousness brushing against her own, ancient and luminous, yet touched with a profound sadness. Images flickered through her mind, vast crystal cities suspended in space, beings of pure light dancing between stars, and then, darkness. Loss. A scattered people hiding among the shadows they once illuminated. "I'm sorry," she whispered, though she wasn't sure why. "The past is past," Novan replied softly. "Focus on the present. On healing." Hours seemed to pass in a dreamlike haze. Occasionally, Lyra would hear other voices, medical staff, she assumed, but Novan's presence remained constant, a beacon guiding her back to herself. With each session, she felt strength returning, but also sensed something else, a growing connection that went beyond healer and patient. When Novan finally told her she could open her eyes, Lyra found herself hesitating. Part of her wanted to preserve the mystery, to hold on to the intimacy of that shared healing space. But curiosity won out. She opened her eyes slowly, letting them adjust to the soft light of the medical bay. And there, beside her bed, stood a being unlike any she had ever seen. Novan's form was mostly humanoid, but his skin seemed to shift and flow with patterns of bioluminescence, swirling galaxies of blue and silver light that pulsed in time with his heartbeat. His eyes were entirely silver, yet somehow conveyed more emotion than any human gaze she'd encountered. "Hello, Dr. Winters," he said, and the same melodic resonance filled the air. "Hello," she replied, finding herself unable to look away. There was something mesmerizing about the way light played across his features, like watching stars being born. "Your recovery is progressing well," Novan said, checking various holographic readouts that floated around the bed. Though there are still areas that need attention. The neural pathways to your motor cortex dash. Why did you save me? Lyra interrupted. The Lumini are supposed to be extinct. Helping me, it risks exposing you. Novan was quiet for a long moment, his luminescence dimming slightly. Because it is what we are. What we have always been. The universe is vast and often cruel, Dr. Winters. But where there is suffering, where there is pain, we must offer healing. Even if it costs us everything. Something in his words sent a chill through Lyra. What do you mean, costs us? But before he could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red emergency lights pulsed, and Novan's form tensed, his patterns shifting to darker hues. We've been found, he whispered, more to himself than to her. Then, louder, rest, Dr. Winters. You're not fully healed yet. I must go. As he turned to leave, Lyra caught his wrist. His skin was warm, almost electric to the touch, and she felt that same sense of connection spark between them. Wait, she said. Who found you? Novan's silver eyes met hers, and in them she saw both ancient wisdom and very present fear. Those who would take our gift by force. Those who forget that healing cannot be stolen, it must be freely given. He gently pulled away, his form already beginning to fade into invisibility. Sleep now, Dr. Winters. The next time we meet, I fear everything will be different. As Lyra felt artificial sleep taking hold again, she watched Novan disappear entirely, leaving only a lingering trace of starlight in the air. Her last thought before consciousness faded was that she had never seen anything so beautiful, or so sad, in all her years of studying the stars. And somewhere in the darkness of space, drawing ever closer to the Helios dawn, ships of shadow moved with deadly purpose, hunting the last light of a dying race. The medical bay's darkness was broken only by the soft pulse of Lyra's vital signs and the distant gleam of passing stars. She had been pretending to sleep when the night shift nurse made her rounds, but her mind was too full of questions. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw patterns of light dancing beneath her eyelids, echoes of Novan's luminescence. The ship's alarms had been silenced hours ago, dismissed as a sensor malfunction by the crew. But Lyra had seen the fear in Novan's silver eyes. Whatever had triggered those alarms was real, and it was hunting him. A whisper of movement caught her attention. The air near the doorway shimmered like heat waves rising from desert sand, and slowly, Novan's form materialized. You should be resting, he said softly, his bioluminescent patterns shifting in muted blues and silvers. So should you, Lyra replied, noting the dimmed quality of his light. You're not as bright as before. Novan moved to her bedside, his movements carrying an otherworldly grace. Each healing takes something from us. It is our gift, and our burden. Then why continue? Why risk yourself? His expression softened, patterns of light swirling like gentle nebulae across his features. Would you stop mapping the stars simply because each journey carries risk? Some callings are written into our very essence, Dr. Winters. Lyra, she corrected. After sharing consciousness, I think we can use first names. A small smile touched his lips, sending ripples of silver light across his skin. Lyra, then. She pushed herself up to sitting position, noting how much easier movement had become. Tell me about your people, Novan. The real story, not the myths. He was quiet for a long moment, his luminescence shifting to deeper blues tinged with gold. We were once numerous, spreading healing throughout the galaxy. Our gift stems from our ability to synchronize our quantum consciousness with others, guiding cellular repair through pure energy transfer. But such power drew attention, unwanted attention. The ships that are hunting you. The Shadework Consortium, Novan's patterns darkened. They believe they can artificially replicate our healing ability through technological means. They hunt us, capture us, experiment. He trailed off, pain evident in his dimming light. Lyra reached out instinctively, touching his hand. The contact sent a shock of warmth through her arm, and suddenly her mind was filled with fragments of memory, not her own, but Novan's. She saw vast crystal ships sailing between stars, felt the joy of healing thousands, experienced the horror of watching those ships shatter, their crews scattered across the cosmos. "I'm sorry," she whispered, drawing back. "I didn't mean to." "No," Novan caught her hand, holding it gently. "The neural bridge we formed, it appears to have created a lasting connection. Unusual, but not unprecedented. My people believe that some souls naturally resonate with each other, like harmonious frequencies in space." The implications of his words sent a shiver through Lyra. As a scientist, she had always sought logical explanations for the universe's mysteries. But there was something about Novan that defied conventional understanding, something that spoke to a deeper part of her consciousness. "The Helios Dawn," she said suddenly. "It's not just a research vessel, is it?" Novan's patterns shifted to a more guarded configuration. "What makes you say that?" "The security protocols are too advanced for a standard research ship. And I've seen military-grade weapons systems hidden behind false panels. This is a sanctuary ship, isn't it? For your people." "For what remains of my people," he corrected. "We are few now, scattered across hidden outposts and sanctuary vessels. The Helios Dawn harbors 6 of us, including myself. We offer healing to those we can trust, while searching for a way to preserve our knowledge before we fade entirely." "Fade?" Lyra felt a cold knot form in her stomach. "What do you mean?" Novan's luminescence dimmed further. "Each healing burns away a part of our life force. We can sustain ourselves for a time, but eventually." He gestured to his already fading light. "We burn out, like dying stars." "But that's," Lyra started to protest, but alarms cut through the quiet once again. This time, they were different, urgent, insistent. "Proximity alert," Novan's form tensed. "They found us." The ship's intercom crackled to life, "All personnel to emergency stations. Unknown vessels approaching. This is not a drill." Novan's form began to fade into invisibility, but Lyra grabbed his arm. "Wait. Let me help. I'm not just a stellar cartographer, I specialized in quantum mechanics at the Academy. If your healing ability works through quantum consciousness, maybe I can." "No," he said firmly, though his expression was gentle. "You're not fully healed. And what we face." His patterns swirled with concern. "The consortium will stop at nothing to obtain our essence. They cannot know about our connection, or they would use you to reach me." "I'm already involved," Lyra argued. "The moment you saved my life, I became part of this." A series of explosions rocked the ship, sending medical equipment crashing to the floor. Novan steadied her with surprisingly strong hands. "Rest," he insisted. "Recover. If we survive this attack, perhaps." His patterns brightened briefly, showing a complex swirl of emotions. "Perhaps there is hope in this connection of ours. But for now, I must protect my people." Before Lyra could protest further, he vanished completely. But through their shared neural link, she felt his presence moving away, sensed his determination tinged with fear. And something else, a feeling he was trying to hide, an emotion that made his light pulse brighter whenever their minds touched. Outside her window, dark ships emerged from the starfield, their hulls seeming to absorb light itself. The Helios Dawn's engines hummed to life, preparing for evasive action. And in the chaos of klaxons and shouted orders, Lyra made a decision. She wasn't going to lie here helplessly while Novan faced destruction. If quantum consciousness was the key to his people's power, then perhaps her understanding of quantum mechanics could offer a solution. She just had to solve the puzzle before the Shadework Consortium tore the ship apart. Carefully, she disconnected her medical monitors and swung her legs over the bed's edge. Her muscles protested, not fully healed, but determination drove her forward. Somewhere in the ship's database, there had to be information about the Lumini's healing process, data she could analyze, patterns she could understand. As she made her way to the door on unsteady legs, she felt Novan's consciousness brush against hers, filled with concern and protest. But underlying those emotions was something stronger, hope. Hope that perhaps, in this unlikely connection between a human quantum physicist and a being of living light, lay the key to saving not just himself, but all that remained of his ancient, dying race. The ship's research lab was eerily quiet, illuminated only by the soft glow of holographic displays and the occasional flash of weapons fire outside the viewport. Lyra's fingers flew across the quantum interface, analyzing data streams about Lumini cellular structure. Behind her, Novan lay in a specially designed med chamber, his luminescence flickering dangerously dim. "You shouldn't be here," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the hum of equipment. "The neural strain could damage my recovering pathways." "I know." Lyra didn't look up from her work. "But you're dying, Novan. And I refuse to watch it happen." The attack had been worse than anyone anticipated. The Shadework Consortium hadn't just found them, they'd been waiting, having tracked the Helios Dawn's quantum wake for weeks. When their boarding parties breached the hull, 2 of the younger Lumini had been captured. Novan and the others had managed to drive the invaders back, but the cost had been devastating. The others, Novan started to rise, but Lyra pressed him gently back down. "Are safe in the secondary sanctuary. Dr. Reese and the security team are protecting them." She finally met his silver eyes. "But you used too much energy healing the wounded crew members. Your core temperature is dropping." A weak smile crossed his luminescent features. "We do what we must." "No." Lyra's voice was firm. "That's exactly the kind of thinking that's led your people to the brink of extinction. There has to be a balance between healing others and preserving yourselves." Through their neural link, she felt his protest, his deep-rooted belief in sacrifice. But there was something else too, a longing for life she hadn't sensed before. Not just survival, but real living. She wondered if their connection had awakened that in him. The lab's security screen beeped, showing more consortium ships approaching. They had perhaps an hour before the next attack. Lyra turned back to her calculations, expanding a complex quantum matrix in the air between them. "Your healing ability," she said, manipulating the glowing equations, "it's not just energy transfer, is it? You're actually quantum entangling your consciousness with your patients, creating a temporary bridge that allows you to guide their cellular reconstruction." "Yes," Novan's patterns shifted in surprise. "How did you?" "Because I can feel it," she touched her temple. "Ever since you healed me, there's been this resonance. Like a song I can almost hear." She expanded another set of equations. "But you're doing it wrong." His luminescence pulsed with confusion. "Wrong?" "Not wrong exactly, but inefficiently. You're taking the full burden of the quantum transfer onto yourself, burning away your own pattern to rebuild others." "But what if?" She adjusted the matrix, adding new variables. "What if the transfer could be reciprocal?" "Impossible," Novan whispered, but his patterns had brightened slightly with interest. "The patient's quantum signature isn't compatible with your natural frequency, no. But mine is." Lyra projected her own neural scans alongside his. "Look at the pattern correlation. Ever since you healed me, our quantum signatures have been harmonizing. Growing more alike." A distant explosion rocked the ship, sending tremors through the deck. Lyra steadied herself against the med chamber, and the physical contact sent a surge of warmth through both of them. Images flooded her mind, Novan's memories of his first healing, the joy of saving lives, the growing fear as his people were hunted to extinction. But mixed with those memories were newer ones, the first time he saw her, the surprise of their neural compatibility, the growing warmth whenever their minds touched. "Lyra," his voice was pained. "What you're suggesting, the risks, are less than watching you burn out." She began calibrating the med chamber's quantum field. "Your people have been carrying this burden alone for millennia. But you don't have to anymore. Through their link, she felt his fear, not for himself, but for her. The thought of causing her harm was almost unbearable to him. But there was hope too, and something deeper, something neither of them had dared name yet. "The consortium ships will breach our defenses soon," he said softly. "Even if this works. It will work." Lyra finished her calculations and met his gaze. "Do you trust me?" His patterns swirled with complex emotions. "More than I should." She smiled. "Good. Because this is probably going to hurt." Lyra activated the quantum field, and the lab filled with swirling energy. She felt the familiar sensation of their neural bridge forming, but this time she didn't just accept the connection, she reached for it, strengthened it, guided it into new configurations. Novan gasped as their quantum signatures began to align. His luminescence flickered, then steadied, growing stronger. Lyra felt a strange doubling of sensation, as if she could feel both bodies at once. The strain was incredible, like trying to hold two forms of existence simultaneously. Through gritted teeth, she focused on the equation she'd derived, the mathematical expression of perfect quantum harmony. Their frequencies shifted, adjusted, and finally, light exploded through the lab. Lyra fell back, catching herself against a console. When her vision cleared, she saw Novan sitting up in the med chamber, his luminescence restored to full brightness. But the patterns were different now, threads of gold mixed with the silver and blue, matching the strange new energy she felt coursing through her own body. "How do you feel?" she asked, both aloud and through their now strengthened neural link. "Alive," he breathed. "More alive than I've felt in centuries." His patterns rippled with joy and wonder. "What did you do?" "Created a quantum resonance loop. Instead of burning away your energy to heal, you can now draw strength back from those you've helped. It's not perfect yet, but..." The ship's warning system blared again. On the security screen, consortium boarding crafts were approaching the hull. But this time, Novan didn't look afraid. His luminescence pulsed with renewed purpose as he stood. "We need to reach the others," he said, offering her his hand. "Show them what you've discovered." Lyra took his hand, feeling the familiar warmth of connection, but also something new, a shared strength, a balance of energies between them. "Together then?" His patterns swirled with that deeper emotion neither had named, but both could feel growing stronger with each passing moment. "Together." As they moved through the darkened corridors of the Helios dawn, Lyra knew they were running toward danger. The consortium would not stop hunting the Lumini, especially now that their power could be sustained rather than depleted. But for the first time, they had a real chance at survival. And in the quantum harmony of their joined consciousness, she felt the truth that would change everything: love, like healing, was never meant to be a one-way transfer. It was an exchange, a sharing of light and life that made both parties stronger. Now they just had to survive long enough to prove it. The sanctuary core of the Helios dawn thrummed with ancient power. Lyra stood in awe as the remaining Lumini gathered around them, their combined luminescence filling the chamber with waves of living light. Through her enhanced connection with Novan, she could feel the quantum harmonies between them all, a symphony of stellar frequencies that made her previous understanding of physics seem childishly simple. "Impossible," breathed Elder Senna, the oldest of the Lumini. Her patterns were pale gold shot through with white, like a star in its final brilliance. "The quantum resonance, you found a way to stabilize it." More than that, Novan's voice carried both pride and wonder as he explained Lyra's discovery. "She's found a way to make it self-sustaining. The healing doesn't have to deplete us anymore." But Senna's luminescence dimmed with concern. "You don't understand. The depletion was never a flaw, it was a safeguard." A tremor ran through the ship as another consortium blast struck their shields. Dr. Reese's voice crackled over the intercom, "Primary defenses at 18%. We can't hold them off much longer." Lyra felt Novan's confusion through their link. "A safeguard? Against what?" "Against ourselves." Senna moved to the center of the chamber, her form shifting until she seemed more light than matter. Our gift was never meant to be permanent. We are not truly healers, Novan. We are guardians. The chamber's walls shimmered and transformed, displaying star maps unlike anything Lyra had ever seen. But these weren't just maps of space, they showed tears in reality itself, places where the fundamental forces of the universe had begun to unravel. The cosmos is dying, Senna continued. Has been since the first moments of creation. Our role was to slow that death, to heal the quantum fabric of spacetime itself. Each time we use our gift, we take a small portion of that universal entropy into ourselves. Understanding hit Lyra like a physical blow. The depletion, you're not just spending energy, you're absorbing the universe's wounds. Yes. And now. Senna's patterns swirled with grave concern as she looked at the golden threads now running through both Lyra and Novan's quantum signatures. You've created a perfect loop. The entropy has nowhere to go. Another blast rocked the ship. Through their neural link, Lyra felt Novan's rising horror as he realized the implications. The Lumini weren't meant to survive, they were cosmic antibodies, meant to sacrifice themselves healing reality's wounds. But before anyone could speak, alarms blared throughout the sanctuary. Dr. Reese's voice was tense, they're through the shields. Multiple breaches on decks 3 through 7. They're heading for the core. Senna's form flickered. We cannot let them take us. If the consortium learns to replicate our ability without the safeguard, they'll heal the universe to death, Lyra whispered. She could see it in her mind, well-meaning scientists using artificial quantum resonance to fix the natural entropy of spacetime, not realizing they were disrupting the very forces that kept reality stable. The sounds of fighting grew closer. The other Lumini gathered around Senna, their lights pulsing in harmony as they prepared for what might be their final stand. But Novan remained by Lyra's side, his patterns reflecting the same fierce determination she felt. Through their connection, a plan began to form, not in words, but in quantum possibilities. Lyra's scientific knowledge merged with Novan's innate understanding of cosmic forces, creating something entirely new. Elder, Novan's voice was steady. What if there was a third way? Not endless sacrifice, not eternal survival, but balance, Lyra finished. Her fingers flew over the sanctuary's quantum interface, modeling what they'd both envisioned. A controlled resonance. Not a loop, but a spiral, taking in entropy but releasing it in a transformed state. Senna's patterns shifted with interest, but before she could respond, the sanctuary doors exploded inward. Consortium troops poured through, led by a figure Lyra recognized from intelligence briefings, Director Voss, the ruthless leader of their bioresearch division. Nobody move, Voss's augmented eyes gleamed as she surveyed the chamber. Especially you, dear luminous friends. We've spent far too long hunting you to risk any heroic sacrifices now. Lyra felt Novan's light pulse with protective fury, but she squeezed his hand, sending a clear thought through their link, not yet. Show them, Understanding flickered through his patterns. Together, they let their quantum resonance build, their combined frequencies rising until they glowed like a newborn star. The other Lumini sensed what was happening and added their own harmonies to the symphony. Voss raised her weapon, but her augmented eyes widened as she registered the readings. What are you doing? The energy patterns, they're impossible. No, Lyra said softly. They're evolution. The chamber erupted with light, but this time it wasn't just illumination, it was transformation. The quantum resonance spiral she and Novan had created began to sing through reality itself, showing everyone present a truth too vast for words. The universe wasn't dying. It was changing. And the Lumini weren't meant to be its dying guardians, but its guides through transformation. As the light reached its peak, Lyra felt Novan's consciousness merge completely with hers, their combined understanding opening doors to possibilities neither species had imagined. But even as hope blazed through their connection, she knew the hardest part was still to come. The consortium had to be shown the truth, not just about the Lumini, but about the very nature of healing itself. And somewhere in the quantum harmonies between human science and La-Mini wisdom lay the key to saving not just a dying race, but the evolving cosmos itself. The sanctuary core had become a nexus of pure quantum potential. Streams of transformed entropy spiraled through the chamber, visible now to everyone as ribbons of crystalline light. Director Voss and her troops stood transfixed, their weapons lowered, as reality itself seemed to breathe around them. Through their completely merged consciousness, Lyra and Novan began to understand. The quantum resonance they'd created wasn't just changing them, it was opening a window into the universe's deeper nature. Every particle of existence was engaged in an eternal dance of entropy and renewal, death and rebirth, separation and connection. You see now, Elder Senna's voice echoed with ancient knowledge as her patterns shifted through impossible colors. Why this gift could never be taken by force. Voss stepped forward, her augmented eyes struggling to process what they were recording. All these years, we thought we were trying to save humanity. To steal the power of life from death itself. Her voice cracked. But we never understood what that power really was. Because you tried to grasp it, Lyra spoke, her voice harmonizing strangely with Novan's frequencies. Instead of letting it flow through you. The quantum spiral was expanding, touching each person in the chamber. Through their shared consciousness, Lyra and Novan guided the transformation, not healing exactly, but awakening. Each cell, each atom began to remember its connection to the cosmic dance. But the power was building too quickly. Warning signals flashed across the ship's systems as reality itself began to buckle under the strain of so much quantum potential. The ship can't contain this, Dr. Reese's voice was urgent over the intercom. The reaction is spreading through all decks. We need to evacuate. No, Novan's patterns pulsed with sudden clarity. We need to complete the transformation. Through their link, Lyra understood what he meant, and what it would cost. Their discovery had opened a door that couldn't be closed. The Lumini's true purpose was not to fight entropy or to preserve life indefinitely, but to guide the natural evolution of consciousness itself. What was happening in the sanctuary was a microcosm of a universal process, the merger of matter and energy, science and spirit, separation and unity. Director Voss seemed to sense it too. Stand down, she commanded her troops. Clear the ship. All personnel. She met Lyra's gaze with surprising humanity in her augmented eyes. Whatever's happening here, it's bigger than our mission now. As the chamber emptied, the remaining La-Mini gathered around Lyra and Novan. Elder Senna's patterns had begun to shift in a way Lyra had never seen before, less like light and more like pure possibility. The choice is yours, Senna said softly. Both of you. The spiral you've created, it offers a path of transformation. Not survival as we are, but evolution into something new. Something that can guide others through the great change that's coming. Through their connection, Lyra felt Novan's love for his people, his fear of change, and his deeper understanding that change was the only true constant in the universe. She shared her own fears, of losing her humanity, of stepping into an unknown that defied all her scientific training. But stronger than fear was their shared certainty, this was what both their species had been moving toward all along. Together? Novan asked, both aloud and through their quantum bond. Lyra smiled, taking his luminescent hand. Always. The transformation began slowly, then with increasing speed. The quantum spiral they'd created became a chrysalis of pure potential, encompassing all the La-Mini and Lyra within its light. Through their enhanced awareness, they could feel the ship being evacuated, could sense the consortium fleet pulling back as reality itself began to ripple around the Helios dawn. In those final moments of their old existence, Lyra and Novan shared everything, every memory, every dream, every fragment of knowledge from their respective sciences and cultures. Their consciousness expanded until they could see the quantum threads connecting all things, the great pattern that both human and La-Mini had glimpsed but never fully understood. The ship's hull began to dissolve, not into destruction but into transformation. Where the Helios dawn had been, a new form of existence was taking shape, neither energy nor matter, but a quantum bridge between states of being. Those watching from the evacuation ships would later describe it as a door opening in the fabric of space-time itself, a gateway of living light that pulsed with possibilities. Through this gateway, Lyra and Novan led their people into evolution. They became guardians not of ending, but of becoming, helping consciousness itself navigate the waters of transformation. Their story would become legend among both species, though few would understand its full significance until the great change began to touch all of reality. But in quiet moments between guiding others through transformation, in the quantum spaces where their consciousness still danced together, Lyra and Novan remembered their first connection in a simple medical bay. They remembered that the greatest transformations often begin with the smallest choices, to trust, to hope, to love beyond the boundaries of what seems possible. And in the endless spiral of cosmic evolution, their light burns eternal, not as separate beings, but as living proof that the universe's greatest gift is not the power to heal what was, but the courage to become what might be. The story of the Helios dawn became more than a tale of star-crossed love or scientific breakthrough. It became a beacon for those who followed, a reminder that in the space between what we are and what we might become, there lies a light that burns brightest when shared. And somewhere in the quantum dance of reality, a spiral of gold and silver light continues to spin, calling to those ready to transcend the boundaries between flesh and energy, science and mystery, ending and beginning, forever transforming, forever becoming, forever new.